weird night. Could not find the headphones. It's more like ear pods. It's like they go around my ear, and I kind of hide the cord as it goes back down. And so, in order to be able to do the stuff that I need to do, I need to be able to hear what's going on. So, got my great big cans on tonight. Sorry about that. And yes. This is the Mac to the Future livecast, such as it is on a special night, Thursday night. For people who don't know why I wasn't on last night, which is the night that I usually do it, my son guy was down from Boston, and he needed to go to the train station. He was leaving Wednesday night, so instead of doing the show, yeah, I know, bad me. I went ahead and took him to the train station, which involves going to downtown DC, which I hate doing. I really don't like going to downtown DC. But none of that really matters. This is going to be, I don't know how long this show is going to be tonight. I've got one main topic for the first part of the show here. But actually, before I do that, I want to show you something. A couple weeks ago, I was telling you that I bought a quad-core Mac Mini, and it's finally set up. And actually, I need to change the page here. There we go. I have it over here, which you can't see until I take the webcam and move it over there. You see it? It's probably not the best shot, but there it is. And it's pointed right at the Back to the Future page. There it is right there. You can see the big, huge mess. I'm actually in the process right now of kind of consolidating a lot of stuff, because when I go to the can't even think of it. It's the conference in Chicago that I've been MacStock. When I go to the MacStock conference and expo, July 15th and 16th in Woodstock, Illinois, I'm going to take a bunch of the stuff, bunch of the junk. It's not even really so much junk. It's just stuff I don't use anymore. And that's going to go up there, and it's going to be part of something new they're doing this year, which is called Mac Swap. So if you are going to be at the MacStock conference and expo, and you've got some stuff kind of laying around in your house that you don't need anymore, sorry, excuse me, bring it with you. Take it to the Mac Swap, and maybe there'll be something there that you need, that you see, and swap it out for something else. I'll have a bunch of stuff there. My wife has threatened to divorce me if I come back with anything. So I can't bring back anything. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, so yeah, so here we are. It is Thursday night instead of Wednesday night, and the topic this week is, wait, what is this from Brian? Yes, it's a Mac Mini, Brian. You have an IFB headphones that you cannot find. Yeah, I had some. These I don't even know what you call them. They're like earpods. If I could speak tonight, that would be great. They're like ear pods, and they have this like round piece that slips behind the ear, and then the actual thing, the speaker kind of just fits inside your ear. And I have the feeling I'm going to talk to Guy later, and I hope he didn't just take him with him without asking. They may have fallen off the table. All kinds of things could have happened. And actually, part of the reason why the show was actually late tonight, I wasn't getting any sound out of this microphone right here, and I could not figure out why. I'm checking plugs, and I'm looking in system preferences, and I'm in audio hijack, and I'm doing all these things, and come to find out that one of the cats probably walked across my mixer and hit a button that's kind of a kill switch for audio going through to USB. And as soon as I saw that and hit it, I had sound again. So yeah, that's a good thing. So getting back to what it is that I wanted to talk about. The subject tonight is it's partially about this company, but the other part of it is really the expectations of privacy on the web. You really shouldn't expect too much of it, and this company in particular has proven that they're not trustworthy, and I won't be using them anymore. And it's too bad because I actually found the service quite handy. The company is Uber. And what I've got this labeled as is that Uber not so Uber anymore. There's been stories of sexual harassment, defections and resignations of top executives. The CEO actually caught on film giving one of his drivers a really horrible time. The potential theft of intellectual property related to one of the people that they hired that used to work for Google. Related to driverless cars, a high turnover rate amongst Uber drivers, leading the company to lower its standards for contracted employees, the drivers, and increased competition from similar services like Lyft and so on. They've also kind of hacked off the New York City taxi drivers by continuing to pick up and drop off passengers and removing surge pricing. At New York airports earlier this year, when the taxis went on strike to protest President Trump's 7-country travel ban. Twitter went nuts with this with hashtag dump Uber, as a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon. And, regardless of how you feel about President Trump and his policies, this is not a political show. So I'm not going to even try to debate all the insanity right now, but really, I think this is currently a country that's really divided, and it just seems like some of the things that are dividing people are almost based on fake outrage. The people that are outraged want to impress are outraged because they're being told to be outraged. It's not like what's going on right now is any better or worse than other incidents that have happened in this country over the last 50, 60 years. But I think the big difference is it's a lot easier to organize now. And so many people are just willing to be led on both the right and the left, rather than think for themselves. And I think that's what a lot of that is. But getting back to Uber, their CEO, Travis Kalanick, I believe is his name, in my opinion, quite frankly, needs to go. His argument with one of his own drivers caught on camera, so we can't really deny it, was terrible and shows a side of him that says much about the corporate culture of Uber. Their high turnover rate amongst their drivers kind of says a lot of the same. The high quality drivers are a premium for something like Uber, and what they should be doing what they can to retain them instead of treating them like disposable commodities. Now, one of the big things that has gotten people outraged about Uber has been accusations of sexual harassment, and sexual harassment should not be tolerated for any reason whatsoever when it can be proven. And to me, that's the key. It isn't enough to just make the claim. It has to be able to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and those that are found guilty should face strict penalties for doing so. But for the sake of this discussion, I'm kind of putting that to the side until the allegations have been proven or unproven in one way or another, especially since there are lots of other issues that should disturb those who value their privacy. So let's talk about what can be proven. Uber has attempted to skirt local laws banning their service with a near spy agency-ish tactic known as geofencing. in essence, drawing an electronic circle around the offices that regulate services like Uber. And these offices were responsible to try and catch them to see if Uber or other companies were breaking the rules. Uh, these users, the people that work for these agencies, would then be tagged or grayballed under a number of criteria and shown fake cars or no cars at all in an attempt to bypass restrictions. They would also take burner phones and sign up to other services and request rides and then cancel them to tie up their competition and to avoid detection as well. They'd use these burner phones. And this was also to try to find out which drivers for these other services were also working for Uber. Now, the most recent revelation was that the Uber CEO was called onto the carpet by none other than Apple's Tim Cook for electronically fingerprinting users of the service even after the app was deleted, which is strictly forbidden for iOS. And like what they did with the regulators they attempted to fool, Uber also geofenced various Apple facilities to avoid detection by Apple employees. Hey, Jay Vaswani, I hope I said that right. Basically what I'm talking about, Jay, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, I apologize. I'm talking about what's going on with Uber and some of the shenanigans that they've done. They've worked on going against regulators. They've worked on trying to sabotage other similar services. They've done, not so great things. Jay, thank you. With their drivers and other contract employees. And I'm just getting to the part where they were actually called onto the carpet by Apple for doing a lot of these same things. So Apple, or Tim Cook, sat down with, I gotta find his name again, Travis Kalanick. And what Apple was upset about was that Uber was also electronically fingerprinting users of the service after the app was deleted, which is forbidden by iOS. And like with the regulators they were trying to fool, they also geofenced Apple facilities to try to avoid detection by Apple employees. Now, Uber's explanation for this was that it was intended for fraud prevention. Fraud prevention, if I could speak tonight, that would be great. Related to stolen phones and credit cards to protect users, and this did not go over well in Cupertino. And they were threatened with having their app banned if they didn't make immediate changes, which, as far as I know, they did. And, they kind of had to. I think that Apple users in general were probably a pretty heavy user, not just of Uber, but of Lyft and of other rideshare programs like this. And, and in case you feel like I'm dumping on Uber, I've used them quite a bit in San Francisco and Washington, D.C. and Boston. And in each and every case, the drivers that I had were professional, well-spoken, friendly, and the cars I was in were very clean. The drivers ran the gauntlet of race, gender, religion, and I don't have a complaint about any of them. But for those drivers that were just outstanding, the ones that I had, I have to wonder how many of them are even still with Uber after, everything that's happened. Now, ride sharing as a concept, I'm also highly big on, especially in areas like New York and San Francisco, which in my opinion have some of the worst taxis that I've ever experienced. And I've traveled in cabs all over the world. Being one of the first to popularize it, Uber will probably be around for a long time. But like I said, I don't think I'm gonna be using them anytime soon. Let's see. Jay was saying that you have a relative that drives for Uber, as do I. One of my brothers, I think, drives for Uber. And their drivers in every single case have just been outstanding. So I hope that, and the worst part about all of this is it doesn't matter if you're a high level executive or if you're one of the drivers. You're all going to be painted with the same brush, and you're all going to suffer because of the actions of a few at the top of the company. And that's not fair, but unfortunately, people's memories are pretty short, and they sometimes don't get that when you're upset with a company, you're not just hurting the company by not using their services, you're also hurting all of the people that work for that company. So I hope that the really good drivers for Uber, after everything that's gone on, will try to find a spot with another company if Uber doesn't really change their ways. But I want to get into another issue somewhat briefly. Dragged into this is another company called Unroll, which allows people to subscribe or unroll from various email lists all at the same time. It's a free service, which is said to have had ads as part of their monetization policy. Well, the other thing they do is they remove all of the personally identifiable information from the people that use their service, or PII, and then they sell that to other companies. Now, before you get outraged, remember that this is a free service, not unlike Facebook, which we are all on tonight, or Google services that give you something at no monetized cost to you, that in order to use, you must accept their terms of service. In the case of Unroll, the terms of service were actually pretty clear and easy to understand. The bottom line, though, is that you are not any of these companies or products' customers. You and the information that you give them so freely is the product of these companies, and they sell that information because that's the only way they can, that they can make money. Unroll and their parent company, Slice Intelligence, used data not only from Uber, but other similar services that they sold to Uber, so that Uber could keep track of these users and their habits. And again, before the outrage button gets pushed, Unroll and Slice insist that all the information that specifically identifies you is removed from all the data that they sell to whoever is willing to pay for it. Now, we have their word on this that it's true, and frankly, there's no evidence to suggest that it isn't true. So again, this begs the biggest question of all of this in this relatively new age of the internet and global information services. And remember, the internet, as far as the public using it, has not been around that long. It's really been 20 years. That's not really that long of a period of time. But when it comes to all these services that are free to use, how much are you willing to pay or not pay to use these services as compared to something that you would have to pay for? Would you join a social network system like Facebook if you had to pay a monthly fee for it or a yearly fee for it? But on the plus side, they didn't sell any of your information. It was all your information was strictly yours to do with as you please. Would you be willing to pay for a service like that? Would there be enough traction and enough other users of a service like that to entice people to use it? I mean, let's face it. One of the big draws for something like Facebook is that everybody's on it. Everybody. So if you had to pay for a service that didn't have everybody on it, would you still be willing to use it? Would you still be willing to pay for it? Or are you okay with giving Google and Unroll and Slice Intelligence and Facebook, Twitter, even Apple with iTunes. All of these services that don't cost you any money is still being sold at a profit to someone. All that information that you're freely giving them. Think about that. Brian Monroe says some would, but most would not. And I agree with that. The network effect would not make it practical. That Facebook is looking to zero rate their service in third world countries. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. But I get the feeling that something like Facebook or Twitter could not survive under a paid model. I just don't think there would be enough people that would be willing to pay for it. Anyway, that's going to be it for this part of the show. So I'm going to play an ad, and then when we come back, we're going to get a little less serious and to talk about some of the crazy things that happened on the Mac to the Future page this week. And there was some interesting things. Also, I have some news about another side project that I'm working on that I'm going to discuss a little bit. So hold on, we'll be right back.
This is Private Eye Macintosh, and I'm here to tell you about a book written about me and my search for the Maltese Cube. Yes, it's a fine book. I think you should get it. Quiet, you. It combines technology, Mac trivia, action, murder, suspense. Oh, just tell them where to get it. I'll get to that. Romance, film noir detective fiction. I can't stand it anymore. It's called The Maltese Cube, and it was written by my Mac writer and podcaster Guy Searle. Find it on Amazon. It's only $2.99 and coming soon to the Apple's iBook store. Don't forget, it's The Maltese Cube and so inexpensive. You know you're not in it, right? I mean the next one, right? Sure thing, Louis. You know, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship. Get the Maltese Cube on Amazon and soon in the iBook store.
Okay, hey, we're back. Just like the little ad that I just played there, I wrote the Maltese Cube, 1999, 2000, 2001. Right around the same time that Apple's G4 Cube was coming out, whatever year that was. And I mostly wrote it just for fun, expecting to get really nothing out of it. Originally, it was published in the user group magazine for the local user group that I belong to, the Washington Apple Pie, and they had a physical monthly journal that they would put out. And users would contribute to it and all the rest of that. So they were kind enough to put the story as I was writing it in the journal. And then when I started writing for mymac.com, Tim Robertson was also kind enough to let me republish it. And I did some minor editing, republish it there. And that was kind of the end of it until self-publishing became a thing. So I dug it out again. And then went ahead and formatted it and put it up for sale on Amazon, which was incredibly easy, and Apple's iBook Store, which was not incredibly easy. As far as I know, it still isn't. For self-publishing, really, Amazon is probably the way to go. And I hate to say that because I would love to use, iBooks more, but it's such a pain in the ass. Anyway, so... And that was, kind of the end of it. I think I sold 50, 60 copies. I mean, really nothing. It was enough to get a cup of coffee every once in a while. But then I was talking to Carl Madden. And if you don't know who he is, check out the Mac and Forth podcast. He lives over in the UK, and he's also a writer and a podcaster. And I kind of expressed to him this idea of taking the Maltese Cube and turning it into kind of like an old 40s, 50s radio serial for people that might be old enough to remember those. Things like I Love a Mystery and there were so many of them back then. If you just look up 50s and 40s and 50s radio serials, you'll find a ton of them. And that was kind of what I was trying to do. That's kind of the thing I was going for. And Carl helped me like completely rewrite it to fit into that format. And we got done, and I had all these plans that I was going to, get people to record the various parts and then put it out as a podcast. And then life kind of got in the way, and I got real busy, and it was like over a year and nothing really happened with it. And then I got the bug to do it again relatively recently. And this time I'm putting a lot more effort into it. Wow, I even made a Facebook page for it. So, it's serious. But just kidding around. There's also, I put together a website, though there's really nothing on it yet. And it's, just maltesecube.com. Big surprise, the domain was available. But the weird thing was, this time when I put out the word that I wanted to do it, I mean, I had a couple people that responded that kind of showed some interest in doing it. But for the most part, most of the parts of the play or the serial, I didn't really have anyone for it. Well, when I did it this time and put a little more effort into it, I have got some amazing people that have volunteered their time, because there's no money in this. They've volunteered their time and effort to bring the Maltese Cube to life, to do these parts. And I'm blown away at the level of participation. Even Ed Eisen, he's got one of the big parts of the story. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I wouldn't be looking for it anytime soon. To give you a very, very brief overview of how this is going to work. Once I get everyone's audio parts in, then I have to edit them. Then I need to figure out a way to put some effects in it to make it sound like it's a 40s, 50s radio show. And then, edit the whole thing, splice the whole thing together, have all of it done before I release episode 1. Because the plan is to not start releasing any of them until it's finished. So you won't have to wait, a month, 2 months, 3 months for the next chapter of it, because it'll all be done and it'll come out like once every 2 weeks. The other thing that I want to do is, in between the releases of the parts of the story, is sit down with some of the people that have contributed to making it possible, to try to give a little something back to the great people that have decided to put their time into this project, because I really, really do appreciate it. So as that goes on, I'll put some more, news out as time goes on. I said that twice. Okay. Over on the Facebooks, Jeff Watson put in something about buying a new Samsung Galaxy 8 phone, and he put his initial review on the page. He likes the screen and the mail apps, and so far it seems to be pretty smooth sailing. Battery life has been good. He likes the wireless charging. Even the transition from an iPhone went well. He has reservations going forward about the usual things like updates, which shouldn't be a real big surprise. That's been a bone of contention for Android phones for a really, really long time. You don't get the updates like you do with the iPhone, because you have to wait on, not just for Google to put out an update for the phone, but Android, I won't say all, but a lot of the Android makers put a lot of garbage on the phones. And the reason why they do this is to differentiate their Android phone from a Samsung Android phone, from whoever, a Motorola phone or whoever is making yet another Android phone. So they put on all this stuff which may or may not be compatible with the next update that comes out from Google. So when Google comes out with an update for Android, they have to test it against the phones and against the crap that they put on. And then there's barrier number 2, which is the carriers. The carriers don't want you to update your phone and get more functionality out of it. They want you to buy another phone, because if you buy another phone, that typically means you're going to be locked in from the time you get that phone until you either trade it in for another crappy Android phone, or like 2 years or whatever goes by. So it's a way to lock you into their particular platform. Whereas with with an iPhone here in the United States, if you have a GSM phone, well, you can take it to AT&T, you can take it to T-Mobile, you can take it to any GSM carrier out there. If you have a CDMA phone, you can go to Verizon or Sprint or other carriers that support CDMA in telephones. It's nothing stopping you, because they don't control the phone, they don't control the updates, they don't control the interface. That's all Apple. And, you know, I mean, do you get some of the questionably whiz-bang features that some of these phones are putting out? No, but you have a safer, better phone. Okay. Oh, the page. Yeah, I forgot to put this in. The page went nuts, which could be expected, with encouragement for posting and others who wouldn't touch an Android phone if their life depended on it. Ed Eisen asked about Mac viruses, and quite an entertaining amount of comments followed. Go on over and read it for laughs, but the upshot of it is that there has never been an actual Mac virus by the strict definition of what a computer virus is since the release of OS X. Now, there were some under OS 8 and OS 9, the classic Mac OS, but from the moment that OS X came out, there hasn't been any viruses. Exploits and malware, sure, but no actual viruses. So anyone who starts talking about, oh, you know, Macs can get viruses too, no. Well, yeah, I shouldn't say never, but they haven't as of yet. Exploits and malware, yes. You know, if they can trick you into installing that crap, then, you know, that's malware with a social media element. That's not a virus. And lastly, Warren Sklar rented a car, and he listened to the latest My Mac podcast, which I do with Gazmaz over there in the UK, thereby ruining any resale value the car may have had unto eternity. Yes. So this is such a great group. Some of the things that come across the Mac to the Future page. You know, is there occasionally some problems? Sure. But for the most part, the people that are in the Mac to the Future community, they're pretty good people. I really like them. And they've supported me in creating this podcast. They've supported me in talking about the Maltese Cube on the page, which, you know, they don't have to do. They could tell me to stop doing that. And it's their page. You know, the people that run, or the people that are the admins for the Mac to the Future page, they have final say over what you can and can't put on the page. And for the most part, they've shown pretty remarkable leeway, especially compared to some other Mac pages out there. So, you know, thanks to all the admins over on the Mac to the Future Facebook page. I really appreciate all the support that you've given me, allowing me to do this podcast and some of the other things that I do. It is greatly appreciated. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of me, probably the easiest way to do it is on the Mac to the Future page. I'm constantly over there, so, you know, if you need to get a hold of me, that's a great way to do it. Another way to do it is you can send me an email, guy@mttfgo.com. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle there is MacParrot. I have a Skype number that generally is for the My Mac podcast, but there's certainly no reason why we can't use it too. And that number is outside of the United States. You'd have to add a 1 or a +1. Area code 703-436-9501. That number again is 703-436-9501. And I will be back next week. There's going to be some gaps coming up because, summer's coming and I've got some plans. My wife and I are going to North Carolina late in May. I'm taking my son Peter down to Florida mid-June. And then, of course, the MacStock Conference and Expo, which is going to be in Chicago. Let me talk about that real quick before we head out. I don't know if any of you ever went to the Macworld Expo out in San Francisco. There was a lot about the Macworld Expo that was just fabulous. The sense of community, getting together with like-minded people that all enjoy Apple products. It's great. Well, the Macworld Expo is no more. But you can still get that feeling of community by going to something like these small area conferences. And, and the MacStock Conference and Expo isn't the only one. They're popping up all over the place, but they have a tendency to be focused on one particular part of using computers, whether it's podcasting or digital video or, basket weaving, whatever your preference is and what you use a computer for, chances are there's a conference out there that supports it. But the difference between all of those conferences and something like the MacStock Conference and Expo is that it doesn't focus on just, oh my goodness, sorry, excuse me. It doesn't just focus on using iOS or doing digital video or doing podcasts or audio or graphic design or whatever it is that you want to do. It's focused more on getting people together that enjoy using Apple products and showing you some of the ways that you can use those products better, maybe in ways you never thought of before. And it's just the sense of community. And that's like a key word right there. The sense of community at a small conference like this. It's like 200 to 300 people at this conference typically. There's always someone to talk to. There's always something going on. The talks that the various presenters give are only 20 minutes, and that's a hard limit. 20 minutes per topic. They go off the stage, somebody else comes on. So if there's a subject that you don't really care about, fine, go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, go have a cigarette, whatever it is you want to do. And when you come back, chances are there'll be somebody new up there. So think about it. Check out MacStock Conference and Expo.com. I think if you go to MacStockExpo.com, it'll come up. Price is only $200. If you use the coupon code at checkout, MyMac30OFF, MYMAC 30OFF, you'll get another $30 off the regular price of the ticket. It's 2 full days for the conference. There's going to be something that's being called this year the Midwest Mac Mingle. There's going to be a live band and food and drinks. It's going to be a blast. So that's going to be in July 15th and 16th in Woodstock, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Plenty of places to stay as far as hotels go. Easy to get to. It's so close to Chicago. Check out MacStock Conference and Expo.com. It's going to be in July. Don't miss it. And I think that is going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you all for joining me. And again, I'm sorry for being late. Not only on as far as the day goes that this is going to come out, but also the time with my technical difficulties. So you all have a great one, and I will see you next week.